Today we're going to make the Lil Loops Reindeer. So this is a full video tutorial. A pattern assumes that you have crocheted before, but it is a beginner level pattern. So let's take a look at this little guy. He's made with minimal sewing. So the body and head are all worked in one piece and the limbs are crocheted on as we go. So then we're just sewing our muzzle, ears, and antlers. Even the little tail is crocheted in as we go. So if you want to follow along with a written version of this pattern, there is a free version available to view on my website, Darling Maple Designs. I'll link that in the description below. And there's also a premium version of the pattern, which is available on my Etsy or Ravelry shops. They will also be linked in the description below for you. So as far as materials are concerned, I've chosen the Honey Bunny yarn by Hobby. We're going to use this color scheme for today's video as well. So I have the nougat color and caramel and beige and chocolate. So you're welcome to substitute in any yarn you'd like. If you want them to be able to hold the candy cane, you want to make sure that your gauge is similar to the gauge that's written in the pattern. As far as other materials go, I'm using an H 5.0 millimeter hook. I like my Clover Moore hooks. I've got my scissors and a bent tip needle. You don't need a bent tip needle, but you do need some sort of sewing needle. Stitch markers are quite helpful, and my safety eyes. I'm using the 10.5 millimeter safety eyes. I get mine from Suncatcher Craft Eyes. I'll link that down below for you as well. But I do have videos showing how to make a sleepy eye if you'd prefer, so that you're not worried, because these can still be a choking hazard for younger children. Okay, so I can link that video below as well for you. So to get started, we are going to make the little limbs. So we're going to start here by making the arms and legs. All 4 of them are the same for this pattern. And what we're doing is we're working in a joined oval round, and then we're going to fold them up in order to crochet them onto our reindeer. So again, I'm using the Honey Bunny yarn. This is the caramel color. I'll provide a link down below. Premier Parfait Chunky also works just as well for this. To get started, we're going to just do a slip knot because we're going to start with chains. We're not starting with a magic ring this time. And then we're going to chain 6 to start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next, what we want to do is we're going to put 2 half double crochets into the second chain from the hook. So I like to work in the top of my chain when I know I'm going to be working on both sides, because I find the back bump easier to find when I've already worked stitches in this side. I'll show you what I mean. It's kind of hard to explain before you see it. But yeah, so when I'm working in an oval around both sides of the chain, I find it easiest to work through the chain as I would a regular stitch. So see how you've got that V? Bring it closer for you. There's a V on the top of your chain. I'll work through both parts of that V in order to work down the chain this way. And then on the way back, I'll work in the back bump. You don't have to do it this way, but that's just the way I've always done it. So we're going to do, again, 2 half double crochets in the second chain from your hook. Okay, and then what we need to do is work a single crochet in each of the next 3 chains. Okay, and then now that we're in the last chain, we are going to put 5 half double crochets into this last chain. So So last chain can be tricky to find those 2 loops. If you can't, that's okay. You can work in any part of the chain you want for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so you can kind of see those back bumps there. We are going to work a single crochet in each of the next 3 chains. So we've kind of rotated as we've come across. Let's show you that part as well. So this is where our first 2 half double crochets are. We did our 3 single crochets, and then as we're working the 5 half double crochets in the last chain, it kind of rotates on its own. So we're turning, rotating so that we can work the other side of the chain back to the beginning here. So now we're going to put single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And I like to carry my yarn, my starting yarn, the tail, as I go here. You don't have to do that either, but I just find it makes it a little bit easier to weave in at the end. Number 3. Okay, and then in this last chain, we are going to add 3 half double crochet stitches. Okay, there we go. And then to finish this off, we are just going to end off with a slip stitch in the first chain. Now, before I finish this, I want to make sure that we add our stitch markers in. I forgot to get you to add them as we went. So you want to add your stitch marker to each end. So it's the last chain, the last stitch you just made, and the 3rd half double crochet on this end. You don't need a tail on this, just long enough to weave it in, but we're going to just crochet this right on as we go while we're making our body. So there's that. You can throw some stitch markers in there so you can see what I mean. But basically what we want is that when we fold this up, we want those 2 stitches to meet so we can work through them to crochet them onto the body. Well, make sure you make 4 of these, and then we'll come back and we'll get started on the body. So next up, we're using the nougat color for the body. Now, one thing that I forgot to stress earlier on is that you pretty well have to make the pieces, at least for the limbs and the body and head, in the order they're written in the pattern, because these are all crocheted on as you go. So you want to have them ready to go once you're starting the body and head. So make sure you've got all 4 of those done. I also went through and I wove in my ends for these little pieces, the limbs, just so I don't have to do it later. You don't have to do it right now, but I found it a bit easier to do it before you're actually crocheting them on to the body. Okay, so let's start on the body. Again, we're using the nougat color. And so there are 2 ways you can start here. The pattern says to start with a magic ring, which you can absolutely do. And it can be a little tricky working with the fuzzy yarns and doing a magic ring. My biggest piece of advice is to crochet fairly loosely for that first round until you have the ring closed, and then you can crochet at your actual tension. So I do have videos showing in more detail what I'm doing for my magic ring, but we're starting with 6 single crochet stitches into our magic ring. Now, I said there are 2 ways to start. So the other option is to chain 2 at the start, and then work your first 6 single crochets into the second chain from the hook. Either method will work, especially with the fuzzy yarn. With a medium or worsted weight yarn, you'll find that you'll see a hole in the middle if you use the chain 2 method. When you're using the fuzzy yarn, usually your chains will be tight enough that you won't see a hole at all. The yarn's very forgiving like that. So if you can't get the magic ring to work with this kind of yarn, no worries. Chain 2 and put all 6 single crochets into the second chain from your hook. Next up, I'm going to close my ring here. I've got, again, 6 single crochets into my ring. We'll close it up. Now, one thing I have noticed with this yarn is if you put your finger here on the first single crochet, you can kind of feel where the knot is and where it kind of flips so that you can close it. I hope that makes sense. Once you're doing it and get a feel for it, I think you'll know what I mean. So we'll just pull that closed. Okay, and again, don't pull too hard because this yarn does tend to snap. Okay, so that's round 1 of our body done. For round 2, we are going to place 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch. So we're going to increase in each stitch. I'm going to add a stitch marker here to keep track of my rounds. Okay, and again, 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch. There's no join or chain in the middle of the rounds. We're working in continuous rounds or spiral rounds, as it's sometimes called. So I recommend using the stitch marker to help you keep track of your rounds because it can be pretty tricky sometimes, especially with this yarn. Take that in for a sec. Especially with this yarn, to find the beginning and end of your rounds without using stitch markers. So that is the end of round 2. In round 3, what we're going to do is we are going to single crochet in the first stitch and then put 2 single crochets in the stitch after that, and we'll repeat that pattern around the whole round. Around the whole round, oh dear. So single crochet in the first one, 2 single crochets in your second one, so that's your increase, and then do that another 5 times, so 6 times in total.
So we will be going from 12 stitches up to 18 stitches.
And don't forget, you can speed up or slow down the video or pause it if you need to keep up. We all have a different speed to work at, and that is totally okay. Okay, and then my last stitch is also an increase with 2 single crochets. Okay, next up, we're going to start attaching our yarn. So round 4, sorry, not attaching our yarn, we're attaching our legs. So round 4, we are going to start by just doing a single crochet stitch. Okay, that's it to start. Next up, we're going to grab one of our limbs, and I'll grab the one that I put the stitch markers in so that you can see what I'm doing. And what I want to do, I'm going to flip it over to the right side. It doesn't matter which side you have facing the front. I like this side. This is the side that faces you when you're working in your oval round. So I like to have this side facing out when I do this. And then you're going to fold up your leg and take the piece that you're working on for the body, and you are going to insert your hook into the first marked stitch and then the next marked stitch, and then you're going to also insert it into the next unworked stitch of the body, like so. Okay, I'll just pause here for a second so that you can make sure you've got the stitches lined up. And I'm going to take these stitch markers out so they don't get in my way. But so see how we've got this loop here? That's what we want. We want to go through the end stitches and then the next stitch of the body. So for the body, I should add that this is the right side of the body. This is the inside. So a lot of times people will say, keep the noodle in the bowl. So the noodle stays here and we will build up around it. Okay, so back to this stitch. We are going to do 2 single crochets to attach this together, but both single crochets will be worked in this same stitch through all 3 pieces of fabric. So 1, then we're going to go back through those same 3 places, same set of holes, 2. Now what this does is it allows this to twist a little bit so that you can put the candy canes any way you want if you've decided to use candy canes. It just gives it a bit more stability having the 2 stitches rather than 1. Okay, so after we've added our first leg, we are going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches of the body. Okay, and then we are going to add our second leg. So again, we want to take this, and so this is the last stitch worked. This is the middle half double crochet down here. I'm going to insert a hook through this one, and then the middle one down here. And then we're going to go back in here and find our next unworked stitch. So if you look at it like this, you can see this last worked stitch. We want to work in the next unworked one. Okay, and again, we are going to work through these 3 pieces all together, and we're going to put 2 single crochets. So again, we're going to go back through that same set for our second single crochet stitch. So we've got 2 legs attached. Now what we're going to do is we are going to crochet over to our stitch marker. So that is 10 single crochet stitches.
For a total of 20 single crochet stitches at the end of this round.
Take this out. 10. Okay, so this is round 4. Okay, round 5. We're going to start again with just a single crochet stitch. Stick my stitch marker back in there. But yeah, so the first stitch of round 5 is a single crochet stitch. And then we are going to do a single crochet decrease. So I'm going to do an invisible decrease here. If you need more details on how to do an invisible decrease, I've got a video for that I'll link below. So an invisible decrease, and then I'm going to crochet, single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. And then we're going to do another single crochet decrease. Okay, and then we are going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a bobble stitch. So the bobble stitch is for the tail. So to do a bobble stitch, you want to yarn over, insert your hook into the next indicated stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Yarn over through 2. So we're basically doing the beginning part of a double crochet. We want to do that another 4 times to make another 4 sort of sections here, and then we'll bring it all together. So again, yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over through 2. So now we kind of have 2 parts. So 3 more times, yarn over through the same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over, we're going to do it again, and yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2. Okay, one more time, yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2. So now we should have 6 loops on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So to close up our bauble, we want to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops on that hook. And then we want to keep this relatively tight here. See, I'm pulling down a little to tighten off the top of the bauble stitch. That helps the bauble to stick out for you. So tighten that just a little bit, and remember, not too hard because this yarn does snap. And then we are going to single crochet in the last 4 stitches of the round. And number 4. Okay, so that is round 5 done. So the next 3 rounds, you're going to single crochet in each stitch. So I'm going to go off camera to do those, but single crochet in each stitch. So you'll have 18 stitches in each of the next 3 rounds. And then I will come back and we will start round 9. Okay, so let's start round 9. Again, the rounds 6, 7, and 8 were all just single crochet in each stitch, and there are 18 stitches in each round. So finish those up, and then join us here for round 9. Round 9 is a decrease round. So we are going to go from 18 stitches down to 15 stitches. So to do that, we are going to single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we are going to do an invisible single crochet decrease. And we will repeat that pattern again with a single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, and then a single crochet decrease, and then you'll repeat that a 3rd time over here. So we're repeating this process 3 times total. 1, 2, 3, and our decrease, then 4, and then again we are going to do our decrease for our last stitch. All right, so that is round 9. Round 10, we're going to decrease again. In round 10, we are going to go from 15 stitches down to 12 stitches. So to do that, we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And then we're going to do a single crochet decrease in the next one. And again, I'm going to do an invisible decrease. We'll repeat that 2 more times. Single crochet in the next 3, single crochet decrease. So if you are just starting with amigurumi, I would recommend counting your stitches at the end of each round to make sure that you have the proper amount. Put it out. I'm going to decrease in this last one. Okay. So that's the end of round 10. So for round 11, we are going to attach our arms on. So to do that, we first need to measure out where our arms go. So when we crochet, the stitches sort of travel a little bit. as we crochet, and it depends on our tension and depends on if we use a yarn over, yarn under method. Everyone uses a different way of crocheting. So the easiest way to line up your legs is to find the center, or sorry, line up your arms, is to find the center. You can use your hook if you need to. And we're gonna find the middle 5 stitches. So we've got our very center one here, and then we'll need 2 on each side of that. So I'm gonna mark those all with stitch markers. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to count over 1 to the right of our stitch markers, and that's where our arm's going to attach. So if you're left-handed, you will want to do this in the opposite way and go over to your left-hand side here, because you'll be working around the body this way. And the stitch to the left, that's where you want to attach your arm. So one of the easiest ways to align this up, see how I'm back here? This is where I ended off after my last one. So I've got 2 stitches and I really want to start my next round here. So I'm just going to add a single crochet in here, and I'm not going to count it as part of the next round. It'll just be there. Yeah, so it doesn't count for any of the rounds. It's just a shift stitch so that it lines up properly. So if you need to, some of you will be right at the stitch to attach your arm. Some of you may need to even take out a couple crochet stitches. So let's pretend I need to take out a stitch. So because this last stitch is your decrease, you'll have to take out that one plus the one before and then do a decrease there, because what you ultimately want to make sure is that you have 12 stitches still. It doesn't matter where those decreases are so much as that you have 12 stitches at the end of your round. So let's go over here, and I'm going to add my single crochet stitch in. Again, this one doesn't count for any rounds. And then I'm going to grab one of my last stitch markers here because I only have 5. We'll mark that, and then we're going to pick up our first arm. And for the arm, again, it's the same as the legs. We want to take the last stitch worked and the middle half double crochet on the other end, and we are going to fold up our arm. Okay, so put that on your hook, and then what you're going to do is you're going to work into that indicated stitch that we found. So again, we're right-handed, so you want the stitch right after those 5 marked stitches. That this stitch here is going to be where our arm goes. So we're going to insert our hook into there, and we are going to do 2 single crochet stitches through those 3 pieces of fabric. So again, go back through. Okay, so there is our arm attached. I'm going to take out my stitch markers here, and I want to single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. And then we're going to grab our last arm here, and we'll find that last stitch that was worked. Wrong side of it. Last stitch worked, and then you want the middle half double crochet on the other side, and then in the next unworked stitch, I'm going to go through that as well, and we're going to do 2 single crochet stitches while working through all 3 pieces here. And then we're going to single crochet in the last 5 stitches of the body only.
leaving us with a total of 14 stitches at the end of this round.
All right, so that attaches our arms. And then we are going to move on. Round 12 will be an increase round, so we're going to start shaping our head now. So down here, I had you do like decreases after you attach the legs to keep our numbers for the rounds in line. Here we don't need to do the decreases because we're going to increase anyways, but we're not going to increase where we did the previous round. So we're going to start with a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. I have my stitch marker back in here. So single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And then we are going to put 2 single crochets in each of the next 5 stitches. So again, 2 single crochets in each of the next 5 stitches. So at the end of this round, we'll end up with 24 stitches. Okay, and then we're going to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches again. And then we'll do 2 single crochets in each of the last 5 stitches.
So at the end of this round, we'll have a total of 24 stitches.
Okay, so there's the end of round 12. As you can see, we've done a pretty dramatic increase to get to the head here. So the next 4 rounds, you will want to do just single crochet in each stitch, and you want to do that for 4 rounds. So I'm going to do that off camera. I'm trying to get my stitch marker in here. Again, you're going to single crochet in each stitch around, and you're going to do that for the next 4 rounds. So rounds 13 to 16, you'll have 24 stitches in each round, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the decrease round at round 17. So here we are at round 17. So rounds 13 to 16, it was a single crochet in each stitch for all 4 rounds. So you should have a total of 24 stitches still. And the next round, round 17, we are going to decrease. So we are going to decrease by 3. So to do that, we are going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches and then do a single crochet decrease. Again, single crochet in the next 6 stitches. And then decrease. We'll repeat that 2 more times. Single crochet in the next 6 stitches. And then do a single crochet decrease. And again, if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video, or you can change the playback speed as well. Single crochet in the next 6 stitches. And then do a single crochet decrease for our last stitch. Okay, so that's round 17. Round 18, we are going to decrease again. This time we're going to go from 21 stitches down to 18. So to do that, you're going to single crochet in the next 5 stitches and then do your decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease. One, two, three, four, five, and then decrease again. One, two, three, four, five, and then decrease in our last stitch. Okay, so after round 18 here, what we're going to do is we're going to add our safety eyes and add a bit of stuffing. So I haven't added any stuffing yet. I do have a place in the pattern where you can add stuffing before now, but I tend to just wait until about this point before I start to stuff any of the body. So our safety eyes for this little guy, they're going to go to on round 16, approximately 4 stitches apart. And when I say 4 stitches apart, that means you'll have about 3 stitches showing. So I did that for this guy. And for this one here, I put them a little bit closer so you can only see 2 stitches in between. So you can choose what you prefer for that. To count up and find round 16, so I know that round 11 is when we attached our arms, and I know that round 12 is where all these increases happened. So you can see round 11 here, then round 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we want to place our safety eyes along this line here. So what I usually do to start is I just put a safety eye on that round somewhere. It's not always in the proper spot yet, but I try to put it on the round so that I remember which round I'm on. And then take a look and count over your 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can add your second safety eye there. And then what you want to do is like check to see if they look centered. And if they don't look centered, play around with them. These guys are pretty close here. But I mean, this side, I could move this eye over one more and then have them a little bit wider for this video. I think I'm gonna stick it back over here though. Okay, and then put the backs on. Now, you're welcome to, there's a couple different ways to get the backs to stay on better. So you can add some glue. Some people like to melt the ends of the backs. I'm not selling this. I'm just gonna use it for my own Christmas decorations. So I'm not going to do any of those things with this. But yeah, feel free to add some hot glue on the back or melt down the ends. I find the eyes from Suncatcher Craft Eyes to be quite sturdy anyways. But if you are selling them, you only take the extra precautions. Another option is to not add safety eyes here. And I have a video showing how to do a sleepy eye instead. So after you've got your eyes added, you can then take and stuff. So I try to fluff up the stuffing ahead of time and then start at the bottom and work my way up. When I'm doing a bigger project, then I will make sure that the places that have the extra increases, so in this one it'll be like where the head starts, that extra stuffing goes in those parts to sort of accentuate the shaping. Because it's those increases and decreases that help with our shaping. But we can also make it look a lot fuller if we help with this, directing our stuffing to those areas. So, and then just as a quick sort of side note here, these guys are really small, so you don't really have to do this for these guys, but for like a larger animal in the neck, if you sort of push your stuffing down along the sides of the neck and sort of create a cone of like a harder kind of chunk of stuffing in the middle, that'll help to keep your neck sturdy. And I do have another video showing that in more detail, but just a sort of a side note here while I've got you. And I don't like to go too high with my stuffing because I don't like when it gets stuck in my stitches as I'm crocheting. So I'll do a little bit more here. And I find with this chunky yarn, like adding stuffing, even when you've got just the 6 stitches at the top before you cinch it together, you can still use like the end of your hook to get the stuffing in there. So then then we don't have to worry about having the yarn stuck in your, or the stuffing stuck in your stitches. So I'm gonna push that down a bit. And then we will move on here to round 19. So round 19 is also a decrease round, and we are going to go from 18 stitches down to 15. I lost a stitch marker. So 18 stitches down to 15. So what that looks like is we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and then do our single crochet decrease. And we'll repeat that 3 times. So single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, 4, and we'll do our single crochet decrease, then we'll single crochet in the next 4 again, decrease, and then our last repeat, single crochet in the next 4, and then decrease. It's the end of round 19. Well, almost, here we go. Okay, now we're at the end of round 19. Okay, and then for round 20, we're going to do another decrease round. This time we're going to go from 15 stitches down to 12 stitches. So to do that, we are going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then do our decrease. We'll repeat that 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Decrease. 1, 2, 3. Decrease. And another thing I should add is when you're doing your stuffing, you don't need to stuff these guys super full. If you're not wanting to put a candy cane in them, then by all means, like stuff it as firm as you normally would. But you want to have a little bit of extra cushion here so that when you put the candy cane in, it kind of holds the candy cane but doesn't break it, if that makes sense. Also, your stuffing will settle a little bit as it sits, so getting the right consistency may take a little bit, but yeah. Final decrease. Okay. So now we're at the end of round 20, and round 21 is our final round for the head here. So what you probably want to do is add a bit more stuffing in here. And again, like I was saying, I wouldn't stuff it too full, especially the belly area. The head you can stuff a bit more. But yeah, you just work the stuffing into the spots. If you find that your eyes kind of turn a little bit because you're stuffing over them, you can just kind of turn those back. Make sure you've got added stuffing in between them. And then see how my head's kind of looking flat? So you want to add extra stuffing around that rim to puff it up. That helps to make it nice and even. And again, if you don't want to do this now, you can do it after the next round, but it's a little trickier to get into all the crevices. So I'm going to do a bit more after I get this final round in. But yeah, see how it's starting to look a bit more rounded, a little bit pointier up here. Okay, so let's do this final round. Figure out where my loop went here. There we go. And then for the final round, round 21, we want to do single crochet decreases all the way around. So we're going to do 6 of them. So the trick with doing those up here at the top, I find, is to make sure that this loop stays fairly tight. So I'm going to pull on it a little, and see how that tightened it down? It'll just keep my stitches nice and close together up here. So see how I'm pulling on my loop. You don't want to pull too hard because the string will snap on you, or the yarn will snap. But if you pull enough to keep it tight to your crochet hook as you're gathering for your invisible decrease, that'll sort of help your stitch stay together and be smaller. So pull it down again. This is number 3 we're working on here. Four. 5. And our last one. 6. So then I'm just going to end off with a slip stitch to the next one. And then I need to leave about 6 inches of yarn so that I can cinch the top together as I go here. So pull that out. We're going to add a little bit more stuffing to the top here. So this is one of the reasons I love these hooks so much, is because you can use them to help with stuffing in the smaller areas. I don't like to use scissors, only because I don't trust myself to not stab the yarn and actually break it. So I use the end of my hook. And the rubber grip kind of grips a little bit to the stuffing, which is also nice. So once we keep working this, we'll get this in, and then we are going to cinch together the top of our head. Okay. All right, so there we go. Don't be afraid to like squish them so that you get the shape that you want for them. Okay, let's go ahead and cinch up the top here. So to do that, I just go through the front loop of each stitch and then pull them all together. Okay, pull on that. Then what I tend to do is take a little piece here and make a knot. I don't think everyone does a little knot here, but I like to have a little knot. It makes me feel better about it not unraveling on me. And then I go through the center and push it out the back. What I tend to do is, again, especially because it's the same color as my head, I will also then push it back through another stitch and out again. I find anytime that I'm darning in ends and can have the opportunity to change direction as I'm doing it, that just helps to keep the end from coming out. And this yarn can be pretty slippery, so anything we can do to kind of prevent the yarn from slipping out, I tend to do it. So then we'll just cut it here. I don't cut too close because you take the little bits of fluff off, and then you can kind of stick this in with the end of your needle. All right, so there's our body done. So I am going to go ahead and get set up, and we will do our ears next. All right, so let's make the ears here. Now the ears are made in a joined oval round. So again, instead of starting with our magic wing, we're going to start with a chain. So I'm going to do my slip knot to start. And then we're going to chain 3. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So to do that, because we're single crocheting, I don't think I did it on the making these so much with the half double crochet to start, but since we're single crocheting, I tend to pull a little bit on that first chain from the hook to tighten it up so that I don't get a hole in the middle of my ear. And then again, like with the arms and legs, I like to work into the chain the way you would a stitch, like work into the top 2 pieces. And then, because there is going to be one stitch that is worked on the back of the chain, it's easier to find just that back bump. So we're going to single crochet. Right here in this second chain from the hook. And then the next set of stitches are all going to be worked into this last chain. So because we have so many stitches worked in that, you don't necessarily have to work into it with the 2 pieces. You can just pick up one and go and it would be fine. But I'm going to work in the 2. Oh, but I forgot to do my yarn over. Okay, so we're going to do 2 half double crochets to start in this chain. So 1, 2, and again, all this whole chunk of stuff is worked in that last chain. 2, and then we're going to do a picot. So what a picot is it's a chain 3, and then you're going to slip stitch to the 3rd chain. So it just adds a little bit of a point to the end of our ear here. So a picot, again, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to work the slip stitch into the back bump that's hidden down here. That's our slip stitch. Again, I tend to tighten this down so we don't have extra loops where we don't need to have extra loops. And then, so after doing that, if you get a little bit disoriented with where to put your stitches, you can kind of see here where this last stitch is. We're still going to work another 2 half double crochets into that chain. First one, there's our second one, and see, just like with the arms and legs, see, we started in this direction, we did our single crochet, 2 half double crochets, this is our picot, 2 half double crochets. See how it's kind of like rotating as we work? So that's what we want. And then this here, this is where our last stitch is going to go. So we're going to do a single crochet in that stitch. Again, I am carrying that back yarn with me as I go. I actually find it helpful when I'm sewing on the ears because I can tie the other tail to it and then push it into the head. So this is our single crochet. And then the last part of this is we want to join to the first stitch made, which is this one right here beside it. We're going to join here with a slip stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and make the second ear with you. If you want to pause it or fast forward, that's okay, but this is a little bit trickier, so I'm going to go ahead and make the second one with you as well. Again, we're starting with our slip knot. We are going to chain 3, 2, 3. I'm going to pull this down a little bit just to keep it a bit tighter. We're going to single crochet in that second chain from the hook. And then in our last chain, we are going to do 2 half double crochets. I didn't leave enough room for that, so that can just go. That's what I mean by just one piece, because this one can kind of get pretty tight. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets, our picot, so our chain 3, slip stitch into the 3rd chain from the hook, And then we'll do 2 more half double crochets, all in that end chain. And then we've kind of rotated as we went around there. And we are going to place our last single crochet stitch in this last chain, going back the other way. And we will finish with a slip stitch into the first stitch worked. All right. And then you want to leave about 6 inches or so to sew the ear to your body. Okay, pull that through. Pull off the fuzz. All right, so next up, we want to work on our antlers. So the antlers, I did in the same color as the feet here. So that's the caramel color. And again, we are going to start with a chain. This time though, we're not going to work in both sides of the chain. We're only going to work in one side of the chain. So I'll show you what I mean here. We're going to do our slip knot to begin with. And then we are going to start by chaining 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, because we are not going to be working in both sides of the chain, this is a time where I would work in the back bump of the chain to start. And I would do that because then when you work in that back bump, then that V will show on both sides. So I'll show you how that works as we go. But the V, like I think it finishes it off nicer. So we did our chain 6. I did a little pull here so that this last loop wasn't too big. And then I'm going to flip over my chain to find these back bumps. So it's hard to see with this yarn, but I'm hoping you can see that there are little ridges along here. So we have 5 of them. We chained 6, but we're working starting in the second chain from the hook. So we lose one of our chains there. So we have 5 of these back bumps to work in. So we're going to start by doing a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And then we are going to single crochet in the next chain as well. Okay, so that's all we're doing to start. So this is like the main branch. And what we're going to create is a little nubbin or like second part to the branch. So to do that, we're going to chain 3. We'll tug a little bit on that last chain so it's not too loose and sticking out on us, and flip that chain over, and we are going to single crochet in each of those 2 bumps. So single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and then single crochet in the next chain as well. Okay, and then so we have our 2 little branches, and then what we're going to do is we're going to jump back to this original main branch to single crochet in the last 3 chains. And 3. Okay, so see what I mean? See how, because we have our stitch here that we're making, so the top of the stitch is showing, but then because we worked in the back bump, see how this side is also nice and clean? That's what I mean. So if we were to work down both sides, I find it easier to start in this side because then the back bump is showing to make it easier to work those stitches. But if I'm only working down one side of the chain, then I work into the back bump. You don't have to do it this way. This is just how I've always done it. So there we go. So we finished off our antler here, and I'm just going to break my yarn. I think about 6 inches should be plenty in order to sew these little antlers on. And then just pull your yarn through here like this, yarn over and through to end off. And then go ahead and make your second antler. And then I will jump back over here and we will make the muzzle together. Okay, so next up is our muzzle. So to begin our muzzle, we want to start with a magic ring. And again, you can start with the chain 2 if you're more comfortable with that. But I'm going to start with a magic ring. And we're going to add 6 single crochets into our magic ring. Okay, so I kept these fairly loose so that I can still pull my ring closed. And look, feel around here, you can feel the knot sort of flip so that you can close it. There we go. Okay, so that is our round 1. Round 2 is an increase round. So what we are going to do is we are going to place 2 single crochets in each of the 6 stitches. So we are going to increase in each stitch all the way around. So again, the same as when you started the body, you don't want to like join or chain or anything like that. We're working in continuous rounds. So just jump right on over to this first stitch. And we're going to place 2 single crochets in here. And then again, we're going to repeat that 5 more times. So 6 times total. We're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch. So we are going to go from 6 stitches up to 12 stitches here. So you should have 12 stitches now. For round 3, we are going to increase again. This time we are going to go from 12 stitches up to 15 stitches. So we are going to single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, and then we are going to do 2 single crochets in the next one. And we'll repeat that 3 times. So single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And then we'll increase or do 2 single crochets in that 4th stitch. We'll repeat that 2 more times. 1, 2, 3, 5. Oops. 3. And then again, this last one is an increase or 2 single crochets. Okay, so that's it for our muzzle. So I'm gonna slip stitch to the next stitch to end off. You can do an invisible end off if you want. I find, especially when you're using the fuzzier yarns, that it's not really necessary a lot of the time because you don't notice it so much. And then you want probably 9 to 12 inches of yarn here as your tail to sew. And just pull right through there. Okay, and then after we sew this on, that's when we'll put the nose on here. I prefer to wait till I've got this sewn on just so that I know my nose is straight. Okay, so I am going to set up for sewing our pieces together and I will be right back. All right, so I guess it's time to sew her all together. So I like to start by sewing my muzzle on first. You don't have to sew the muzzle on first, but I like to sew the muzzle on first. And so when I sew the muzzle on, I don't add the stuffing until right at the end. Like I'll circle up the little tail in there, but I don't actually add stuffing until the end because I find it easier to figure out the placement of the muzzle. So I'm gonna stick the muzzle there and I hold it with my thumb and then I can sew it together. But I forgot to put the yarn through my needle first. Okay, so hold on to that I'm going to start by going just down into the muzzle there, into that last stitch, just to make it a little smoother. And then I am going to treat this muzzle as being a flat piece because it's got a lot of increases. Like if it had a couple more rounds on it that would make it stick out further, then I would treat it as like an open piece onto a closed piece. But so I'm going to do this the same way I would a flat piece. There are video tutorials showing exactly what I mean by flat piece and closed piece, and there are multiple different ways of sewing as well, but I'm just going to show you how I would do it, and then you can decide for yourself what's best for you. So I just picked up a piece here right under the eye, and I'm going to go up the same stitch that I went down when I started this. Up the same stitch, and then I am going to go down the next stitch, and then I will find another piece under here. So I want my muzzle to go a little bit up in between the eyes. So I am going to go up here like this. And then I'm going to go up through the same stitch that I came down so that it looks all nice and uniform as we go here. I'm going to go down the next stitch, and then I'm going to find a piece under here. So this looks like it should be right in the center of the eyes. So I'm going to pick up a piece there, and I don't generally just pick up like one part of a stitch. I usually pick up a couple just to give it a bit more security. Down there, I'm going to go up the same stitch, down the next. And again, you don't have to sew it on this way. This is just how I sew on my flat pieces. I know that I've got it just under the eye here, so I want to do that again over on the other side. Whoops. Okay, back up the same one, down the next. Now the only drawback is when you're using fuzzy yarn to sew like this, your yarn tends to fray easily. Once it starts to fray, just stop where you're at and grab another piece of yarn and keep going. Otherwise, it'll start to cause problems later on here. Pick up our piece, the same one. Next. Now, once I get over to this side, I'm gonna kind of make sure that I'm still even as to where I think this side will go. I think we're good still. So another way to sew this down is to use pins to pin it all in place, which I would recommend if you don't have as much experience with sewing. I mean, even if you do have experience, I oftentimes will take out part of the muzzle and then have to redo it. So it's all what you're comfortable with. It's time to add a little bit of stuffing. Doesn't really need too much in there. And I got lucky this time. My yarn didn't really start to fray until I got to the end here. See how I've got the little chunks now coming off? I think I can work with this till the end. And see, so this is my starting piece. This means that when I first started sewing it, I didn't pull it as tight, but it's okay because I can just redo, like re-sew sort of that part to put it where we want it. See how I pulled that back over? There we go. And then I'm going to pull up a piece here to tie a knot, but you can also tie a knot in any of the parts that are under that stitch. So I'm just going to tie a little knot. May get caught because I didn't change my yarn fast enough. Oh. Okay. In and out the back. Okay, so see how it doesn't look quite as even yet? So what you can do is you can actually take your needle and sort of pull a little bit on certain stitches to get the look that you want. Make it sit to where you want. There we go. Okay, so up next we're gonna embroider on the nose. So I've used the dark chocolate color to do that. I am going to cut about maybe 15 inches of yarn here to make my nose. And we kept this nose nice and simple. So see the first round here? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the center here and up so that I'm only going under one round. So this is the top part of round one. Go through, you're going to leave about 4 inches or so, 3 or 4 inches. And then we're going to keep going through that same set of holes. About 10 to 12 times, and that's how we'll make our nose. It's 1, 2, 3. So you don't have to pull it completely tight because we want to have a bit of a ball on at the end of our nose here. 4, and then if you start pulling this yarn around on the sides a little bit as you go through the same set of holes, it'll kind of bulk it up a little bit more. So I lost count, but I think that's around 8. I think that'll be good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, and then I'm going to go straight vertically down. You can go to the bottom if you want. You can go one round up. It depends what you feel like. And then pull your yarn out there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm come back up here, and I'm going to tie a knot here. I'm going to tie it right near that center part where we kept pushing the needle through. Tie it right near it. And then I'm going to take both ends of the yarn and push them through the center and out the back of the head. made the muzzle a little wonky, you can go in with your needle. Okay. Let's cut the strings off the back here. And then we will add our ears and nose, or ears and antlers, sorry. Alrighty. So let's start with these ears. So I didn't darn in the other tail yet because I'm going to use that to tie off my ear when I'm sewing it on. And again, you don't have to do that. It's just another way of sewing. So we want to put the ears around about round 17, 18. So this muzzle here is about between rounds 12 to 16. Remember, round 16 is where we placed our eyes, and round 11 is where we attached our arms. So rounds 12 to 16 is where the muzzle went. So then we're going to count up from there, 17, 18, and like this here, this 17, 18 block, this is where we want our ears to go. So again, 17, 18, you can pin them in place if you want. Actually, I would recommend pinning them in place and you can get an idea for where they go. So what I've done is I'm just going to put my needle under those two rounds and pull the ear through. And then I'm not going to tighten it any further than that. I'm going to go through the two, like the last stitch worked and the first stitch worked, or thereabouts. It doesn't have to be exact, but I like to go through the ear like this. And then I'm going to go back down under the two rounds that I indicated again. Okay, just check and see how it's sitting. So I like that. I'm going to go back up through these two stitches again. Again, it doesn't have to be the exact two stitches, like this. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to come up at the back where my other yarn tail is. And I'm going to tie them together. So if you tie them together near the point, when you push it in, then the knot will disappear inside. Go, pull on it a little bit. And again, you can fold these down and go in another set of holes just to secure it a little bit better. But there we go. So there's our ear. I'm going to show you how to do one of the antlers as well. So it doesn't matter which one you choose, but the longer tail, thread our needle, and then the antlers are going to be placed at round 20. So this is 17, 18, then we have 19, so 20 is right here. So I'm going to go right under that, just that one round. Pull through and see. Okay, so I want my antler to sit excuse me, it doesn't have to sit this way. It can sit backwards, whatever way I guess there isn't really a backwards. Whatever side you want facing out is good. But I'm going to do the same sort of idea as I did with the ear. So I'm going to go through like the middle of the stitch. So the V, and through, and then through that other stitch over here, the last stitch. And then tug on that a little bit. And then I'm going to go down under around 20 again. And then back through those same stitches on the antler again. So again, you do not have to sew your stuff on this way, but that is how I prefer to do it. I'm gonna then pop back up here where my other end of yarn is, and I will tie those together. All right, so there we go. And then you can go ahead and sew on the other ones. And then we can do some facial embroidery. All right, it's almost ready. So next up, I'm gonna do a bit of facial embroidery. Now this part's completely optional because, I mean, hey, he's pretty cute just as is. But I'm gonna show you how to do the embroidery that I've done on this one here. So I'm starting with the main body color. So again, that was the nougat color. Start with that. I'm gonna thread the needle here. And what I'm starting with is I'm gonna start with a bit of face shaping. So to do face shaping, basically what I'm doing for this kind of project is I'm just gonna push the eyes together a little bit. Just makes them look a little bit more natural, a little bit cuter. So that's all we're gonna do to start. So to do that, we're gonna go in here beside the eye, come out beside the other eye. You wanna leave 3 or 4 inches there. And then we're gonna go down here, just again in the inside of the eye, and come up the inside of the other eye. And then I'm gonna repeat through the same sets of holes one more time. So again, up here, go straight across, and then go down, then go down. And again, we want to go straight across. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to tug on those just a little bit. See how it's pulling it in? And then we are going to tie a knot near one of the holes that we went through. Go, and we will push the yarn out to the back. All right, so the next step, I'm gonna add a bit of white, like eye highlights, to the eyes. So I don't have any embroidery thread right now, so what I decided to do was to grab some worsted weight yarn, and I am gonna divide it up. This is actually a bulky worsted, but it'll still work. So I'm gonna divide it in half here. It's a 4-ply. You just pull it. So I cut it about 12 inches long. If you use the whole thing, I find it just a little bit thick on the eyes. So I divide it in half, thread my needle, and then what I want to do is I'm going to start up at the top here, and then I'm going to find sort of this top kind of corner right here. pull the yarn. Make sure you leave like 3 or 4 inches up at the top here so you can tie it off after. Then we're going to insert our needle down here, right in that inner corner of the eye. We're going to go straight across to the inner corner of the other eye. Just kind of pull, and then we will insert right up here in this corner so that it's matching the other side. Okay, and you can go over those one more time if you want to thicken up the highlights. I like to keep them pretty small. And then we'll tie off here and push the tails to the end. And then next up is the black. So the black, I'm just going to add a bit of a black sort of highlight, and then I'm going to add in some eyelashes here on the sides. So again, the same as for the white, I'm going to divide the plies up here and take 2 of them to make these highlights or eyelashes. Okay, so we've got about 12 inches or so. You don't really need that much to do this, but go. And I'm going to start up at the top here again. Maybe not the same hole, but start up in the top. I'm going to go and start at the inside of the eye here. And then I'm going to come across to the outside. So I'm going to cut across to like just under where that white came out. And then I cut under 1 stitch, and then I'm going to go back in there and then come down here. And then you want to tug a little bit. You can also tug on this side a little bit. Go. And we're going to insert here. And then you can either jump back up here to the top and start again on the other eye, or you can jump right over to the other eye. Depends on what size yarn you've decided to use. You have to see, subtle, but there. And jump over here to just below that white is. Our white's disappearing, so we're gonna use our needle. Just pull it out. There we go. We can play with that a little bit. Okay, insert the needle about here. So I've seen people glue this in place, and others just kind of adjust it after they've tied it off. So there are some options there. Go. And up. So yeah, so there you. So then we're going to tie this off here. And then I'll show you how to make the little lines. So then to finish up and do the little lines up here at the top, I've got my beige yarn. And I'm just going to start right in the middle. I went under 2 rounds. Over to the side. Added a couple here, and then a couple up the top. There's no real rhyme or reason here. Just to add a little bit of character. So not quite as even as the originals, but kind of get the idea here. All right. And we just tie it off. And push our yarn through. All right. And there we go. We have ourselves a little loopy reindeer. Just gonna cut this off the back. And we can add a little candy cane for him. Him or her. And there you are. There's your little loopy reindeer. Lil Loops Reindeer, sorry. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye for now.